It is not often that top analysts of Kenyan politics agree on something that is supposed to happen in the future. It is not very common, not at all. But this time round, all the top analysts I respect and who I believe have a track record all agree that there is something very, very big, looming, brewing, that is about to happen in the nation called Kenya. Now, although I agree with them, actually not totally, because in my view, the year 2026 is not about one big major event. In my opinion, I don't think so. I believe that this year, which is still very young, that we have entered into, will be a year of many major events, and most of them with negative consequences. And on my show today, I will give you, not two, just one reason why, without doubt, it must be true that we're expecting at least one major event, in Kumekucha's opinion, many major events in our country. Why is it important to have a heads up over something like this? Well, many reasons. But the most obvious is that the world favors those who are prepared. The world favors those who take precautions, awaiting what is believed is going to happen. Okay? And I will not tire to remind regulars and faithfuls of this channel that usually in such situations, big event, chaos, etc., that kind of environment also presents massive, major opportunities for those who are ready and looking for them. I will never tire to remind you about that. But before we go into my show today, allow me to do an update on my immediate previous video. Now, Ndindi Nyoro's announcement of 500 bob school fees per term for day secondary schools in Kiharu, which other Kenyans from other counties can benefit from, as long as they're schooling in a school in Kiharu. That particular announcement has caused a storm in Parliament. Now, wasn't that very predictable? I mean, think about it. The controversial CDF, Constituency Development Fund, established under the third president of Kenya, Mwai Kibaki, has been an endless gravy train for most legislators. Because these funds have been misused. Many times these MPs award huge tenders and contracts to their friends, to people they know, people who will give them a cut. And so whatever little development we see in our constituencies today, watu wamekula na wakashiba, but the greed does not stop. And so, imagine, aka MP comes along and shows Kenyans that actually this is a lot of money, and that actually with planning, and very important, with the determination that he will not touch a cent as an MP of that public money, somebody has shown us what can be achieved, what can be done. Do you expect MPs who have been enjoying this money to be happy? Do you? And so I think we have an answer. We understand why there's a storm in Parliament over something Kenyans are very excited about. Kenyans are praising and hailing. Okay? Anyway, for now, let's get this show on the road. Twende kazi. very early in the Ruto presidency, I mean, he had just taken office. I don't think he had lasted even 2 weeks in State House. We made a prediction on this channel, and that prediction has come to pass spot on. But actually, it was not exactly a prediction. All it was, I'm telling you the secret, all it was a careful analysis based on a very key spiritual law. And this is that spiritual law. If you rebel against the authority, your boss, there is no way you can avoid those under you rebelling against you even more than you rebelled against your immediate authority. You can never escape that. Just like you can never escape gravity. If you go to a high place and jump, you will not fly. Definitely not. Now, during President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's first term, I believe in the 3rd year, I remember because at the time, I had made an attempt to flee my calling, my purpose, na nikakiona. That is a story for another day. That is why I remember it. Okay? And this falling out only came to light, came out very visibly in the open during Uhuru Kenyatta's 2nd term as president. And increasingly we saw defiance from his deputy. And there was even a lot of betrayal. We saw, for instance, the camp, which came to be called Team Tangatanga, of the deputy president, even exposing very private things about President Uhuru Kenyatta, like his drinking habits. We were even told that the president's camp, including people like his close advisor and ally, David Murathe, used to smoke ile sigara kubwa in private. Oh yes, I'm sure many of us remember that. It was crazy. And this madharau culminated in a story that was told by the then deputy president that went viral about how after the 2017 presidential elections had been nullified, President Uhuru Kenyatta had given up, and he was suggesting that they hand over victory to Raila Amolo Odinga. And the deputy president told us that he almost slapped Uhuru, and that maybe the only thing that stopped him was the president's security detail. I'm sure most of us remember that. All that information is in the public domain. You know, since the beginning of time, anybody who has rebelled against the authority has received the same and then some, to put it in the American way. And so, in my opinion, it was not even a prediction that when President Ruto took over as president, what happened? There's been a lot of rebellion against him. Rebellion from Mount Kenya, rebellion from those who are close to him. Gachagua. Gachagua. You know, most Kenyans don't realize, or maybe they've forgotten, or maybe they don't want to know, that Ruto and Gachagua did some things together. Okay? Some things which I'm sure were not very good things. Okay? And so Gachagua was not, and has never been innocent. But I want us to remember that the impeachment story started how? It started with defiance from the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. He refused to follow orders from his boss. I'm sure you're following. And don't get me wrong, most Kenyans are happy with what Rigathi Gachagua has done. But let us step back for a minute, remove the emotions, and look at it closer. Gachagua also betrayed his boss because he has told us very many deep secrets of his previous boss, carefully omitting those bad things where he himself was involved. That is the truth minus emotions. Okay? And the truth is, as I prepare this video, the entire nation of Kenya has rebelled against President Ruto. Look at it this way. There are very many unpopular things Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta did during his tenure as president. And of course, many Kenyans hated his administration for it. However, did we see the same massive, right across the country, rebellion against President Uhuru Kenyatta? No! But that is exactly what Ruto is suffering right now. And so with that background, what is this big thing we should expect in Kenya going forward? Well, simply put, more rebellion, and more importantly, more betrayal. Now, betrayal is a game changer because when somebody betrays you, what happens to you? It is usually very damaging to you when somebody betrays you. And that is why betrayal is very, very painful. Bottom line, one of the very major events you should expect in Kenya very soon, sooner rather than later, will be triggered, will be caused, or will involve betrayal by somebody the Ruto administration trusts very much, trusts a lot. Okay? And of course, I have no idea who. Okay? All I'm doing is analyzing the politics using spiritual laws, which have never changed, will never change, and can never be avoided. No matter how educated, how smart, how clever you are, you cannot avoid spiritual laws. Yeah? In the same way you cannot avoid the law of gravity. And please let us not forget or confuse ourselves. Your political rival cannot betray you with effect. Okay? Those who are against you cannot betray you effectively. Those who are not with you, but they're neutral, cannot betray you effectively. The only people who can betray you effectively are those who are very close to you. You remember the story of Julius Caesar? He was betrayed by his best friend, Brutus. The whole plot emerged from his very best trusted friend, Brutus. And that is why it is recorded, yeah, that Julius Caesar's last words were, and I am paraphrasing in modern English, even you, Brutus, even you, Brutus, my best friend, then there's no need of even struggling. Let me just die. Okay? Betrayal of this regime will trigger a very major event in Kenya. Now, in addition to that, I also find it very difficult to see how in this year 2016 we're going to avoid a terror attack. Okay? Now this is highly sensitive, and therefore allow me to speak in parables. Okay? All through history, one thing unfortunate, naive nations did was to provoke the United States of America in the run-up to a presidential election where the incumbent was seeking re-election. Why? Because the incumbent would be very tempted to go into a war. Why? Because a war, a fight against an external enemy, unifies a nation under that incumbent and therefore dramatically increases the chances of re-election. I'm sure umeshika. And I hope I'll not confuse anybody by giving this example from the past. In the year 2016, there was heightened terror attacks in the nation called Kenya. You will remember that the year 2016 was the year before the 2017 general elections. Now, the heightened terror attacks did not really have a good, full impact on the nation. And in my opinion, the main reason was that we had an interior secretary and a half. His name was Joseph Kaiseri. The late Kaiseri alikuwa amejipanga in such a way that succeeding in terror attacks in Kenya was not possible. And even if you succeeded, the damage would be minimal. That is the only reason, in my opinion. If Kaiseri had not been there as the Interior Secretary at the time, the story would have been very, very different. Because there were many major terror attacks against Nairobi and Kenya's second largest city, Mombasa, that were foiled, frustrated. Okay? Bottom line, 2026 is a year for us all to be on very high alert. For us to karada ile mbaya. Yeah, very alert, very sensitive, very observant when you're out there. Yeah, it's important because you never know. I could be wrong, but in case I'm right, you never know. Now, just to give you a heads up, in a few hours, yeah, I'm going to release an ebook. Yeah, you can see the cover on your screens right now, which is based on something that has happened in Kenya, something that happened in Kenya late last year, towards the end of last year, yeah, the Cyrus Jirongo fiasco, which is still being discussed by Kenyans. And this should be very good news for those who are not in a position to get my golden key or even to become temporary members of our highly sensitive special reports. Because this ebook contains all the details in my highly sensitive special report analyzing exactly what happened to Jirongo. And there's more. This ebook includes information that was not in the previous highly sensitive special report, based on highly sensitive video footage that shed new light into this Cyrus Jirongo Manenos. Now you can see details on your screens right now. For only $10, yeah, or Kenya shillings 1,290, you'll be able to get this ebook. And you will have that highly sensitive, crazy information. I have prepared a brief clip talking about this ebook. Take a look. What really happened to the late Cyrus Jirongo? Well, putting together the bits and pieces, information in the public domain, and especially with the information that is not in the public domain, is still not in the public domain. This ebook makes some shocking revelations that will leave no doubt on your mind as to what exactly happened, including the mysterious hand seen very clearly on the passenger side of the vehicle where Jirongo's body was lying after the alleged head-on collision with the Climax bus, and also including the mysterious figure standing and observing and what their body language was saying. Mind blowing. So make sure you get your copy of this Kumekucha ebook that puts it all together for you and gives you the information that will blow your mind. You can see details on the screens right now. Please move with speed. This ebook is going to be available only for a very short time. Only $10 sent to the usual number, or Kenya shillings 1,290 to get this valuable piece of information, most of it which was only available to Golden Key members. This particular ebook is also available free to all holders of the Golden Key. Right, folks, friends, please brace yourself for the year 2026. You've already seen how the year started. I don't want to scare anybody. All I'm doing is giving a heads up, because when you're prepared, you're much better than the person who everything takes them completely by surprise. Until next time, this is Chris. Kumekucha.